As above, so below.
Got it.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Bernard Beitman, Bernie Beitman, MD. I'm a psychiatrist. I study meaningful coincidences, and it really helps if you subscribe to our channel and you like this episode. It helps us get the word out about synchronicity being a valuable part of human existence that the Western world has not yet figured out enough to be able to utilize on large in large populations. Synchronicity can help us mitigate the environmental destruction and self-destruction that we are setting about doing. In this, and you can see my book, Meaningful Coincidences, to help you think about it. And in this episode, we're going to look at pictures, because a picture is often worth 1,000 words. The streets of San Francisco mirror images of itself. The streets of San Francisco mirror images of itself. In the late 1960s, when hippies were a major influence in the city's culture, there was a sign in the Haight-Ashbury district, the epicenter of all this, saying synchronicity spoken here. Synchronicity spoken here. Now, I can tell you that because at least I thought I saw this sign, because I was a part-time hippie while I was doing my residency in psychiatry at Stanford. And I'd go up to the big city, hit the fog from the sunshine, and get involved. While I was running around in those psychedelic-infused streets, synchronicities compounded upon each other. Using the phrases of those days, I had to say, don't get blown out by so many of them. The city has changed immensely since then, yet synchronicities keep popping up. Our guest today will give us a guided tour of the sites in the city, surrounding the city, and some of his travels that make up the visual synchronicities of that still very magical town. Jerry Downs is many things. He's an artist, an author, a photographer, and gives talks and seminars about synchronicity, optical illusions, and uses photographies as a medium of self-discovery. He's the author of 2 books, The Present and Why You Were Born. His photography and artwork have appeared in publications, galleries, and museums worldwide. The main theme of his work is about making connections, primarily about how we see the world and about how the way we look at the world dictates the way the world looks to us. In other words, not just seeing is believing, believing is seeing. And importantly, that the way we see the world is direct reflection of how we view ourselves. He likes to have a few laughs too, because he thinks that having a good time, I'm going along with him, having a good time and learning go very much together. Oh, Jerry, welcome to Connecting with Coincidence.
Thank you so much. I agree with everything you said.
Well, that's go ahead.
So would you like to start the pictures? Or would
So
you
why
like
don't you tell our audience what we're going to do here?
Okay, well, in my life, I'm a photographer as well as other kinds of things. And synchronicity is a way for me to, it was born out of photography because you look at the world. That's primarily your job as a photographer. And I noticed that synchronicities happened a lot. And it was a way to play with the world. And I think synchronicities is like the world saying that it wants to play back. So it's this way to connect with the world at large, because you're looking at it as if it's talking to you. So when I find a picture, for me, it's like a wink from the powers that be that I'm on the right track. And And I really love that. When that happens, it's just the best thing in the world. I can't believe. No, it's this feeling of blessed and being. But I think it's terribly personal. And by personal, I mean the synchronicities that I am given are site specific to my taste. So what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling is being taken into account as the world assembles itself in front of me. So I'm most appreciative for that. But I think that's true for everybody, that this synchronicity thing is a terribly personal event.
There's 2 points you made, Jerry, that are so important for us to emphasize. That the external world wants to play with us.
Yes, that sure feels like it.
Well, I have that another podcast on how the natural world, the inhabitants of the natural world, like to play with people who like to play in the natural world. That's a very strong parallel, and also what reflects both of your perspectives, the natural world and the visual world that you see, is that our external environment mirrors our minds, that there are mind mirrors outside of our minds. And the fundamental lesson of synchronicity involving mental and objective events that anybody can see is that our minds are embedded in our environment much more than we think. Important. Go ahead.
No, I concur completely. It's a kind of poetry. You're looking at the world where everything is symbolic. For my own taste, I think everything's a synchronicity. Everything's connected to your brain. Everything's connected to oneself. And every once in a while, a synchronicity happens just to remind you that that's the case. That's my take.
Good. And let's take your take into the visual, because that's what you love to do. So let's start with some pictures, Jerry.
Okay, let's look at this one first. We'll click on this guy. So here's these. This is in Snowmass, Colorado, and I was passing this with my sister on the way to Maroon Bells, and when we passed, I saw it in the rearview mirror with the yellow and the two things, and I said, "Oh, that's really great." And then we went and saw Maroon Bells, came back in about an hour, and I was coming up to this and said, "Now all we need is two people walking across that wearing black." And she laughs like, "Sure, Jerry." We get there, and this is really kind of just on a side road, and there's these two guys waiting at the bus stop, and I say, "Well, they're not doing it, but the fact that they're there is a synchronicity." So I get out, talk to them, and just it says, just all you do is walk across and walk back, and I'm walking back to the car, and I turn around and they're already walking. So I just lift the camera and click it, and this is the picture. But they're right in stride. I couldn't have. It's like central casting sent them over, and then somebody directed them into the perfect place. And when I got back in the car, my sister said, "How do you do that?" And to me, because it happens so often, I looked at it like, "Well, do what?" And there's an expression called "you don't ask a fish about water," because they can't tell you. It's just what happens. But I love it when it happens, though. I mean, it's just like it happens like a lot. You ready for more?
It happens a lot, and I'm ready for more. But what did this mean to you that this happened? This particular one.
I think what assuming I think part of the thing is that you think it can happen. Having the idea that once that you have a sensibility that this is not impossible, this is not weird, this is not obscure, this is just So I'm assuming that it's going to happen. I invite it to happen. I say, I think it's the thing you were talking about, nature. If everything likes to be appreciated. So if I am appreciating the world and I'm appreciating nature, nature and the world finds a way to appreciate me. And it knows that the way that I love to be appreciated is to drop these little nuggets into my life. That's my either my scientific or romanticized version of it, but it's exactly how it feels. And I would say that it feels like something. And I'm half joking when I said that to my sister. We need two people to be walking across there wearing black, even because the odds of that were just astronomical because of where we were. And but I also thought it might. But I have that thought a lot, and it doesn't always turn out like this as well as this, but often enough that I can just say, how about this? Let's do the I just be open to it happening. And then it's kind of asking me to be present. If I'm present and paying attention, when I teach people, I say I no longer look for pictures, and I no longer look for synchronicities. I simply enjoy the act of looking. And when you, not everything makes a good picture, not everything is a readable synchronicity, but if you can find yourself in a state of appreciation, synchronicities and pictures are everywhere. All you're doing is really making a connection. So initially this was just two signs that are the same. And then it was two signs on the yellow. And so we have yellow, yellow. So there's all kinds of connections, but I'm kind of spoiled. So I need something bigger than that to happen to make it to qualify for my standard of what makes a good synchronicity.
Yeah, a key part of what you just said is that you allow it to happen, you expect it to happen, you're open to it happening, and this is fundamental to synchronicities of all kinds. And that's what you did here. And you get a feeling when this happens. I can tell because I get a little bit of it. It's just fun.
Yeah, there's a part that's anticipatory. And when you say you get a feeling, it's not like, oh, here comes one. It's like, I think you create a field that they can grow in. And that's all done with just your willingness and your openness and your appreciation. And then in that space, things happen in that space. And they happen in that space because you're present and you're with the world. And it's with you. But if you're walking around in your head and going crazy about things, they're a million miles away. But if you're present, they're everywhere.
You create a field of potentiality is the way I would summarize some of what you said.
Exactly.
And that's what you do. And you have an idea of what the potentials are. That's beautiful. So let's go on to the next one, Jerry.
All right, here's a very old one. It's a Marlboro sign. As you know, there are no more Marlboro billboards. And I was driving over this pass in New Mexico, and I saw the sign. It's the back of the sign, so it's silhouetted, and the contrail was coming down. It was like, well, come on. An interesting thing about this one was that this was way before Photoshop and even personal computers. And when I would show my portfolio in this stage of the game, they go, God, you're amazing. How do you do this? How'd you do all this? And then when Photoshop came out, they'd say, hey, that's really good Photoshop. And it's like, what? it was like it kind of took away my the magic. It was like, but now I think one of the things that Photoshop did was make make people question what they're looking at, which is what I was about anyway. To look at the world and know that it's malleable, and there's more than one way to look at something. So again, just because I could recreate that in Photoshop, and now with AI, you can do it by talking to it. So, but it really happened, and but it's so specific. I just love how when I get these, there's a bunch that are not this specific, but oh, someone asked me yesterday, how do you find these things? How do you get to these things? Why are you always in the right place at the right time? And the answer was simple. The answer was, I'm not very picky. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of things that please me. I'm not just a landscape photographer, so I only look at the landscape, and when in the city, I turn it all off. I'm always attuned to it. So I take pictures of pretty much everything. So I'm in the right place at the right time, because there's always something happening if you're attuned to enough different things. And when you're attuned to all of it, I kind of look at the world in some kind of gestalt way, and just and let it come in.
The important thing to emphasize here is this wasn't Photoshop. This was before Photoshop. And
Yeah.
you were in the right place at the right time. And what's funny about that is that there are plenty of right places and right times to be in if you're paying attention. And that's one of Jerry's aphorism, is that you can be in the right place at the right time, but there are lots of places that could be the right place at the right time if you're paying attention.
Exactly. And startlingly so. Yes, absolutely.
It's also that you walk around kind of like with a field around you, a field of this potentiality, where you bring it with you. It's like around you already. It's been created by all kinds of experiences of yours, where you are ready to have a visual synchronicity take place. And that readiness helps increase the possibility that's going to happen, because you got this field that you're walking around in. It's like it's an aura around you that you bring to various places.
I think the other part about how this applies to real life is that same attentiveness or appreciation happens when I go to the grocery store. So the interaction with the clerk and the person in front of me in line and the person behind me is usually ridiculously wonderful. And I look for the opportunity. It doesn't take much to set me off. It's like, just offering them, have the person go in front of you, or just a conversation. And then pretty soon we're all laughing. And the thing is, it just takes so little. And everybody's just like, and I make that comment. It says, it takes so little. And they go, yeah, you're right. It just takes so little. I think everybody is like a quarter of an inch away from ecstasy at all times. And sometimes that quarter of an inch is made out of titanium, and sometimes it's made out of air. But even if it's made out of titanium, there's a way in. And sometimes it's metaphorically like you find the crack, and then you point to it and you say, I got one of those. And then suddenly you're equal, and it goes away. But you do this by practice. And it's like, well, no, I don't want to embarrass myself, or I don't want to embarrass the other people. We need to talk to each other. I live in a very integrated community, and it's probably one of the most integrated places in the country. I think it is the most integrated city. It's like there's a fourth, a fourth, a fourth. And but that doesn't mean that everybody's mixing all the time. So I think I make it a point to talk to people. and it just for sheer exposure for myself and for them. And it's another example of how synchronicity means connection. That's all that means. It means connection. So there's a connection between me and that guy in front of me in the line, or me and the lady behind me, and you just find what that is, and celebrate it. So I love the photography, but essentially what I'm trying to do is create the space in myself where the photography happens. So the actual event, when it happens, is like the end of it's like a flower. The bloom is not the flower. The bloom is the flower event is the roots, the stem, and everything else. So to look at life as if it's already kind of complete and worthy of appreciation, instead of just like the rarefied, perfect, absolute version, then you're always disappointed when you have something that stringent. But so when I say I'm easily pleased, it doesn't take much to delight me. So more things delight me. So that's why I'm in the right place at the right time, because I think it is.
Every place you are is it can be the right place at the right time,
Absolutely.
and you're easily delighted. These you are so open. You are so open to these meaningful coincidences, and you can see them in the moment. It happened to me recently. Just a nice thing happened with somebody I didn't know, and the person went on, and it's to be able to appreciate the moments that were just a little bit away from a good smile, a heartfelt connection.
Mm-hmm.
You are illustrating that, Jerry, beautifully. So let's go on to the next.
Oh, this is great. So I see this poster, and I really like this poster, of a movie poster. So I'm in front of a theater, and it's kind of cool out, and but it's like that. I'm not going to take a picture of the artwork. I want something to happen. So I don't do this normally with things, but when I really like something, there's that feeling that we're talking about. It's like, this could be something. I feel that this could be so I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I waited probably 5 minutes, and it's getting cold, and it's like, and I'm also right on the sidewalk. So I'm trying to be nonchalant, like I'm not waiting, and you can walk in front of me, and I'm not holding the camera up waiting, so that people are free to move in front of me. Because as soon as you raise the camera up, you stop traffic, because they don't want to get in your picture, either out of respect or out of they don't want to be in the picture. But so it's like, okay, and it always happens, as you know, when you let it go, and I let it go, and it's like, okay, well, this is not going to happen. And I literally just like put holding the camera, and then I see out of the corner of my eye the little red hat and this guy coming out from the coffee shop, which is right next door. And then I wait. I've already framed it 100 times during that 5 minutes, and when they come by, I just waited and pushed the button, and there it was, and it was they're at the right height, and it's just like ridiculous. I like that. In this, I'm gonna blow this. Let me see here. See the chin, his chin, and the kid's cheek are right exactly the same as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's just
And
that's
and the poster is of somebody painting.
yes, it's a movie from the painter Turner, and that's yeah. So it's a really great thing, because I'm sure he did it on glass or whatever to take the picture, but it's a really great graphic picture. I just love that, and that was. But it was such a sweet thing.
Yeah, and
And
again, you're like a hunter, uh, ready for the prey that you that you kind of knew was going to show up, or hoped would. And again, you created the potential, you created a field of potentiality because you saw the possibilities. You didn't know what they would be, but you felt it was going to happen. And it only took 5 minutes of nonchalantly pretending like you're not doing anything. And while you're framing the picture, and so it happened. And you found, not knowing what you were looking for, but when you saw it, you knew what you were looking for.
Yeah, oddly enough. It's that's well, uh, normal. People would call that magic. This is what and that part of it really is. It's creating something out of nothing. This is the rabbit out of the hat right here. It's like, here's the hat, where's the rabbit? And there it is, pop.
And creating something out of nothing. Okay, well, let's go on to the next one, Jerry.
Okay, so that's just a simple,
Describe it. Describe what you've got there. That
so
really
we've got,
helps.
so we've got, let me move that over a little bit. So in my world, so I'm taking a picture of this chalk festival, and I noticed the feet, and I just literally just looked around and saw this person walking by. And this one, I actually told her to stand there, which to me, like the guys at the walking across the sign with the walking sign, the fact that she was there was the synchronicity. Some of them I'm just catching, like the
And the
last one,
fact
where
that she was there with socks or hose that matched the colors of the chalk.
yeah, it's absurd.
Well, yeah,
And
it's absurd, but I think for my benefit of being concrete, I'd like to be able to say what the synchronicity is. It just takes a few words. And
uh-huh,
here it is, this hose colors matching the colors of the sock,
exactly.
of the box. Okay.
And
And
it's of the uh this is a picture of her feet, and there's the feet in the picture up here.
and there's
So that's
feet in,
just a secondarily. I mean, the more things I can cram in there, the better.
yeah. So this mirroring, this paralleling are so beautifully illustrative of many forms of coincidence, of synchronicity. So let's do the next one, Jerry.
This is in Reno, Nevada, and again, it's just seeing the. I waited for the cloud. It was like, and positioned myself, and it was, and the Sandman, and the exhaust, and
Describe the coincidence. I know you can see it and it's evident, but what is it that you found here that
I saw first off, I found a good looking sign that's classic and old, and it's got a great looking car. But then there's puppy little clouds in the sky, and it's like, well, because clouds, I'm always lining clouds up, so I have a proclivity for such a thing. So it's like, if I wait, I don't know, 5 minutes, that cloud is going to be exactly where I want the exhaust to be suggested, and almost cartoonish, like it's too big. But I like the cartoon quality of it. It's like, oh, that's silly. And I think one of the things that's great about uh, when it happens once, you say, oh, that's just a synchronicity. That's a coincidence. That's random. And it's like, yes. And the other part is, when you see 100 of them, like I can do easily, it's like something else is going on here. What could it possibly? I want to have people ask the question, how did he get that? And not so much to be impressed by me. I want them to go, how did that happen? That happened? Because and I want people, in, like, just like you do, because this is synchronicities are like a really powerful, wonderful thing to have in your world. And when if you can foster them and to be appreciative of them being in your world, they'll be there. But they'll be there to serve you to be connected to the world. So so I'm using beauty and humor to as tricks, really, to get people to look at the picture and to have an experience. But the main thing I'm after is them having an experience, because that's what I'm capturing. It may sound, I'm capturing the experience I'm having interpersonally, and then this thing came into being to illustrate the manifestation. That's the way it feels to me, that they come into being in tandem with some kind of wave that I'm living. And as well, they hit a peak, and then one of these pops into the existence. But they're so site specific to, how funny I think life is.
Well, you have told us that the beginning of having this exhausting picture required you to wait.
Good one, man.
Yeah, good. Required you to wait at least 5 minutes or so for it to happen, because you anticipated that it was going to happen. Again, you're creating the field, and your greater intention is to connect people with their environment so they can have a sense of connection. So as I boil down or condense what you're saying, create a field of potentiality for synchronicity, wait, and then you will find yourself much more connected to your environment than you're being taught is possible.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that goes along with that, until you really get in stride, is don't measure it. Like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Is not the way to find it. It's more like, how could this be it? Well, oh, there's a red car, and oh, there's somebody down the street wearing a red shirt. Well, and it's like, oh, it's that way. It's like, well, not some huge thing, but you're instead of being blown away from the outside, you go to the outside yourself and start looking around and just noticing how things are connected, even if it's only that. There's a car on this side and there's a car on that side, and one's yellow and the other one's yellow. But the more you can find connection in the world, but you're the one who's doing the finding. You're not waiting around going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? That's fruitless, because it doesn't rise out of angst. It doesn't rise out of that space of a scarcity. It rises out of abundance and appreciation, because it is abundant, and and the big exercise is, how to hold that space. I don't walk around in some childlike bliss 24 hours a day. How could I? I wouldn't want to. That's not the thing. There wouldn't be any surprise. So when this happened, I was surprised. Not surprised like this is like if that was the only time. But this didn't happen to me for the first 20 years, where they were site specific like this. I didn't see them that way until I started looking for them. But it's just this be open, and don't making exasperating. Don't exhaust yourself doing it too.
Well, I think we've exhausted. We've exhausted this slide, so
let's go on. Let's
go on.
Okay, so this is at the National Gallery out in Washington, D.C. And
And what is the synchronicity here, Jerry?
So I see the large sculpture in the background and just the geometric shape of it, and this black, and walking, probably 100 feet ahead, behind that. I see that in the distance. I see that and he's in the distance. So I run along parallel down the grass to set myself up for when that matches the scene and where it fits into it, just like you're playing with Legos or something. It just clicked into place. And again, I treated it as like I'm there to record whatever is doing it is doing. I'm there just as the photographer. The event is being brought to me as kind of like a production, and I'm there just to shoot the performance. That's really how it feels a lot like, oh, it's like, Jerry, look, look, look. And then it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, okay, okay. And sometimes it's like immediately there, and it's like, I don't wait very often. I mean, some of them, of which we've already pointed out, I wait, but by and large, they're happening like immediately. And I mean, I was literally running to get into space so that I could take this picture. And when I got there, I waited a few seconds. He walked into the frame. I took a single frame, and that was it. Oddly enough, because I was trained on shooting slides, I used to shoot slideshows, and I once figured out that I shot 8 miles of film, 35 millimeters at a time during that 30 or 40 years. But so I don't use a motor drive like when it's copying. I don't do 16 pictures here, because when you're shooting slides, you have to get everything right: the exposure, the composition. There was no Photoshop. You had to get the frame perfect. So it's awkward for me to use the motor drive. It's like I'm going to miss it because I'm out of sync. And when I'm doing it just like in anticipation, I kind of can see in the future when to push the button. But I rarely take more than one picture. And I have a motor drive, but it not that it takes the fun out of it. Well, for me, it kind of takes the fun out of it. That's part of. It's not like a challenge. It's just like I like the feeling of being in sync. That synchronicity thing. Uh, it is about being in sync with your environment, in sync with yourself, and then watch the interplay that happens.
Next, please.
Okay, well, what do you think of this one? So I got the thinker, the Rodin thinker, and then I have the guy with the lawnmower bent over thinking, and I just think that's wonderful. and I have a background that's just to die for at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco, and it's. Whenever I go to a museum, whenever I walk out, there usually is something immediate. It's like I just all that looking and seeing how things are done perfectly, like 1,000 times as you proceed through the museum. When I walk out, there maintains that quality of everything is art. It's all just and again, it just. I take a delight in when I see these things, but when I'm given these things, it really feels like there's an interplay between me and the world, not just I'm out grabbing it and the world's separate from me. It doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like we're in cahoots and we're kind of trying to impress each other. It's like, okay, this is going to really this will blow his mind. Or I'm doing the same thing back. It's like, oh, I got it. You see that? I don't. Maybe it's a schizophrenic episode I'm walking around in, but for me, there is this kind of ongoing conversation, and it's pleasant, like friendly. So I like relating to the world as if it's alive. It's like it's an entity.
Before we go on to the next one, I love that the Golden Gate Bridge is right there between the two middle pillars. It's so satisfying to see that wonderful
That,
bridge.
well, I think the bridge and the columns, the Greek column, that's also like the result of thinking. Those are like, ancient thinking and modern thinking to make those constructions. So the whole thing is full of this notion of thinking. And
Good. The whole thing is, I see what you mean. So let's go on to the next one, Jerry.
this is just something that's just utterly ridiculous.
Utterly ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. A very moving picture. So, so puns are synchronicities. They're making these connections. It's like the cream of the crop. They rise to the top. So I'm just at a county fair, and again, why I'm at the right place at the right time.
The synchronicity is
Is the cow and the grain dispenser have the same spots. Yes, and that the shadow fits in so well, and
the
yeah,
the shadows fit in so well. Yeah, I didn't think about the shadows, but they're part of the black and white very
yeah,
clearly.
exactly. The black and white, the black and white, and black and white, right?
Oh,
The brain loves similarities. It loves repetition, and that may be from looking at zebras or game on the savannah. But there's some primitive sense of in that hunting thing you were mentioning, where what's similar, what's different, you're kind of constantly doing that in your mind. And when something happens out of sync, you pay attention to see if it's dangerous or it's funny. Because when you hear somebody laugh, everybody turns to go, what's so funny? You want to be in on it. Well, this happens to me because the universe knows I like jokes. It's kind of as simple as that.
yeah, and it's a visual pun is another way of saying which we were
Yeah,
just
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
exactly.
So let's go on to the next one, Jerry.
Okay, here. Get down. All right, now we're to 9. Yes, this one. Oh, this is great. So this is the angels walking among us. So I was on a bus, and I was in San Francisco.
What's the synchronicity before you give us the background?
And well, it's the woman who has this outfit on, and the outfit, and then she's walking in front of the mural, right where they look like a stylized either energy coming off of her or wings, or but she's in the right place at the right time. And when I this is one of those cases where I got off the bus, and I said, oh, I need a picture for Instagram. I want a square, but I got to catch the bus over there in 5 minutes. So I walk down the street, I see the mural, and I go, okay, well, let's see. And then she comes in, and it's like, I wait, and then I take the picture. It was it's as simple as that. but that anticipating it, or just assuming that something's going to happen is an interesting thing. And not get lost in if it doesn't happen. If you're saying it doesn't happen, it just hasn't happened yet, or And it's not like, well, I wasn't, maybe it happened and I wasn't there. Railing against yourself never works. I mean, if it's you, and the other part is it's abundant. It's an abundant world. If you don't get, if I've missed a lot of, these are all the times that I pulled the trick off, but there are many times where I didn't get it. She was too far. You can't recreate things. But that doesn't mean that I'm a failure. That means I'm keeping my muscle good so that when it does happen, I can get it. So they're having what would one call a failure. Again, it's not a failure. It's just part of the bigger, larger story, the bigger event. Yeah, love that.
Next one, please.
Okay, let's get this guy here. Oh, so isn't this great?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm making a joke.
Isn't it?
It's great. All right, so yeah, you
Yeah,
pulled the first pun.
sometimes I mean sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't.
Well,
Okay.
you started this.
I
Man.
did, but it's
Okay,
visual pun. I mean, it's all visual puns. I mean, that's what we got. So
that's real. So the great with the stripes on it, matching the stripes in her the larger hose. God, I'm forgetting the word because nobody does it anymore. But so this is particularly odd in that I'm just walking in San Francisco and I'm with two other photographers, and I see her coming. I saw the great, and then I saw her coming, but it happened so quickly that she's passing me and I'm passing the great at the same time. And it's like, well, there's no way I'm going to turn around and get this picture. So I took my camera and just dropped it to my side and turned it around, lifted it a little and pushed the button. And that's the full frame that I got. I mean, that's impossible.
yeah.
So that's uh, it must have been it. So again, it's personal. That so you could say God did it, but does God do these kind of things like this? Well, evidently, but
I like to
no.
think that you were aligned with the outcome.
Oh,
That you get into the flow of things. I mean, that's what we did back then, is get into the flow of things, and then synchronicities happen, and who knows what's going on. But you have to get into the flow for it to happen
oh,
sometimes.
I thought you were making another pun with the line, with all the lines.
We get, they're probably there, but I'm not going to say that I'm aware of it. So it's fun to be able to say you can do interchange between the visual and the punning part of it. It's the same idea,
It is.
parallels. So go on to the next one, Jerry.
Okay, I think this might be the last one. This one you were asking about. Oh, let's close that. And then close that. Here we go. All right, so
Yeah.
so again, it's just it's another exhaust picture. It's the smoke coming out of the chimney there. And it's because I have so many of these, to make it really difficult and even more valuable to the series, I made a series where I have a synchronicity happening, and there's a number in every one of them from 1 to 100, from 0 to 100. And in this one is on Route 66 in Arizona, and again, it didn't take long it was pretty much that way. I mean, it was, I just arranged myself and then took the picture.
And
But
the picture, the synchronicity is the shape of the cloud is in the shape of the pink car.
oh, really? Wow, that's cool. No, I never thought of that. No, the synchronicity for me is just that there's a cloud coming out of, like smoke would be coming out of out of the chimney there.
Oh, you've made it so we're used to you and clouds.
Oh, so I've habituated you out of the magic. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
well, it's okay. I mean, the smoking one was our start, and then another one, and now this one. I was looking at this, and that's what I see as the parallel between the car and the
Oh, that's
cloud.
really marvelous. I really love that. Thank you. And now it's different for me as well. Uh, oh, that's really great. I love that. And I can see what you mean. It's a creature of some sort.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I think we can. This is our last one, and I think what we can do is look for other more hidden synchronicities in this, because this, after all, is Elvis, and so there's got to be more going on here than just what I was able to say. Route 66, um, the the di the diagram, but I mean Elvis on stage and Marilyn Monroe looking like person, and the guitar like the person playing the guitar. Uh, these are all like they're all part of the cloud.
yeah. And one thing that's really like he's reaching down into the fog of people and the hands reaching up. It's that's the weirdest part of this whole image is those hands. It's like they're it looks like a almost nightmarish things where they're reaching up out of some foggy murk down in the and then he's because it's all disproportion and it's like it's executed by somebody who's kind of is good at drawing straight lines and is figuring out the rest. Like Maryland's not really that's not a really great picture of Maryland. But you know who it is.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, if you
Just
yeah you
like you
see,
know that that's Elvis.
yeah,
And the car is clearly the guy can really draw cars or she can. But the
yeah,
woman walking so it's 19 this whole town Route 66 is in the middle of nowhere in Arizona, and if you're ever on that road, there's all these tourist traps and whole towns that are kind of dedicated to 50s memorabilia and uh, oddly enough now they're trying to because of Instagram and people taking pictures of them with stuff, they might have a resurgence because people who were interested in 50s, that group of people is, dying off. So now they're trying to
it's coming back. But if we look at this for the parallels between something and something, at least we have 6 and 6 as mirrors of each other, just to add a little bit to it.
yeah, and you
You
also have the white and the blue on the building and the white and the blue in the sky.
Yes,
Another repetition that uh, your mind registers as pleasant. Every
yes,
time you see something like that, it makes you feel comfortable being there.
and the white and the blue are in the background with the of Elvis.
Oh yeah, good job. Uh-huh.
I the Thank you. The most telling things for me that we have been looking at here is the hands coming out of the crowd. And this is another parallel, almost like the 66, that
Uh-huh.
that Elvis is reaching, they're reaching to him, and that's a parallel mirror of them. Of There's another parallel mirror, hands, hands.
Uh-huh. And us reaching for the next thing we could possibly think about.
That's right.
It's like, come on,
And,
there must be something else. Come on.
well, there must be something else because when I looked at this, seeing that hallway and the person standing in the hallway, or the woman looking down there, and the colors she has are similar to the colors on the other side of that doorway
Uh-huh.
as a beginning connection. And then the ceiling over her is resembles, but isn't the same as the color of the sky. But the blue pillars next to her on the outside of the door it's very similar to the sky colors. this is a highly rich photograph here that I feel has more in it that's more subtle than even I can find right now than just the smoke and the cloud being like the
Yeah,
smoke
yeah.
from there.
And one thing about photographs in general, but this one in particular, is that it's an illusion. Like the hallway you're discussing is not a hallway. That's all painted onto the surface of the building. But and when you said pillars next to the next, holding up they're not pillars, they're just a stripe of paint. And but your mind is willing to dismiss things and see things. So your mind will make connections that really don't exist because your mind is in the business of making connections. That's what we're designed to do. So, well, that was a really treat to go through this one with you because you brought it back to life for me. It's like that was very
That
funny. That was
good.
great.
I'm very glad you participated. Now, would you stop the screen share, please, Jerry?
Okay, right here. There we go. There we are.
Okay, there we are. Because we're coming to the end. That this being able to go through the photograph with you, especially that last one, and the one with the Golden Gate Ridge between the pillars to illustrate the thinking there. That's why it was so much fun for us to wander into the photograph and see what more could be in there than any one of us might have seen originally.
Yeah, that was really helpful. We did this in a way that I haven't done with in these interviews before, because it's either for speed or just because you have the expertise to ask the question, which is what the story is. It's like
That's
there's
the
more
story.
going on.
There's more
There's
going
more
on,
going on.
and that's why it's nice to have a couple of different minds looking at synchronicity in general. Because
Yeah,
what we ran across today was more clearly how they're visual puns that you do, and it's really great. And I missed that one, and exhausting. We played around with. So these are. This is looking for metaphor after metaphor or pattern after pattern. What you said, the human brain is set to look for patterns, definitely. And we are activating, by talking about synchronicity, the capacity of the human brain to find the patterns that are there, as we did in the Elvis picture, that maybe some of us don't see right away.
Yeah, I think partly what I want to do with what I do is they're little exercises. You're using the muscles to look at the picture. They're the same muscles that I want them to use when they're looking at the world. Like, oh, well, that's different. They're seeing that two things go together, or three or four or five or six things go together. So walking around the world, like on Facebook, I have a Synchronicity City page on besides
Facebook.
my personal page on Facebook, and I just want people to participate. I'm a moderate version of what you are. I'm not an evangelical way about this, but I think it's just an interesting and a precious and kind of sacred way to look at the world and be in the world.
I think
I'm all for it.
I think it's a marvelous exercise you have, Jerry, and I want to thank you for bearing with us and me and to getting this out so that we've done it. And I appreciate very much learning now what you have, and you know a lot more than maybe you think you do, because I know something about this, and you have a lot in you that is teachable, and you were doing that today. So I thank you very much for being with me today, Jerry.
You did good. We did good, and you brought out stuff that hadn't been brought out before. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
This cycle
atmosphere is our mental atmosphere, like a hologram of cosmic consciousness.